Good morning. So today I want to show to you how to make a recipe with beef, which is much typical of central and northern Italy. I ate this recipe in Tuscany and I found it fantastic. The name of the recipe is Stracotto di Manzo. Stracotto means extra cooked or overcooked. It's made with a piece of beef, which usually is the same piece that in English cuisine is used for roast beef. It must be a fatty piece of beef because this fat, by melting slowly, is going to give flavor to the final dish. Now, this piece of meat will have to cook for something between 5 to even 8 hours on a very, very low flame. The ingredients are going to be 1 kilo of fatty roast beef, carrots, in this case 4 carrots, an onion chopped in a very coarse way, some garlic cloves. The quantity of garlic is to your liking. And in terms of herbs, I use rosemary, but you can use also thyme or whichever herb you prefer. Then we're going to have red wine, which is the liquid in which mainly the meat is going to cook, some water, of course, olive oil, and here I've ground fresh black pepper with coarse salt. So I'll show you what we do. First of all, we generously season the meat. The amount of salt is 1 tablespoon of coarse salt and 1 tablespoon of pepper. It might sound like a lot, but keep in mind that here we have a lot of meat. It's a kilo of meat. And the seasoning that we put now outside is going to be the only seasoning that this meat and this recipe in general is going to have. So you want to be generous, otherwise the meat won't have much flavor. Make sure to put your seasoning everywhere. So go like this and then make so that the meat absorbs all the seasoning as much as possible. Here. I prefer, when I make these recipes or when I make roast beef, to grind coarse salt and fresh, well, not fresh, but the grains of black pepper directly in the mixer, because I think the black pepper keeps more its fragrance when you grind it at the moment. In fact, here the smell now is incredible. There's a very good variety of black pepper, which I think comes from Vietnam. It's really, really nice. Okay, so the meat has taken the seasoning, okay? Let me wash my hands a second. At this point, we switch the flame on. The pot must be a capable pot. Okay, flame on. First, a rather high flame. We put olive oil. Okay. And we let the olive oil come to temperature. If you can notice, the olive oil starts moving. And you see that there are tiny, tiny waves coming up. It means that the olive oil is reaching the right temperature. Yes, we can put the meat. So we go in with the meat, and this is the fattiest part. So I go first with this. You see the meat? It starts singing like this. It must sing. This part is important because you need to seal the meat. If you don't seal the meat, instead of a stracotto, you're gonna have a boiled piece of meat. Sealing the meat makes so that all the flavory juices of the meat remain inside. And during the cooking, the meat becomes juicy and tender because it doesn't release its juices in the sauce itself, but keeps them. So you do this for all sides of the meat. One important thing, when you make recipes like this, or like roast beef, because also to make roast beef you must seal the meat first, you should never, ever make a hole in the meat by using a fork or any other tool that can do that to the meat, because if you do that, the juices of the meat are going to come outside. So, it's pretty much 2 minutes per side. You don't want to cook the meat at this stage, you want just to seal it, okay? You can serve this recipe with, for example, a nice mashed potato on the side, or you can use the sauce that comes out of this recipe also to season pasta. In northern Italy, they accompany this recipe with polenta. Polenta is a fantastic thing. One day I'm going to show you how to make it. Lower the flame, there's too much smoke. I don't have too much. Okay, you can take the meat out and we put it back here. Okay. We take at this point our veggies. What happens now is that the water that the veggies are going to shoot is going to deglaze this part here, you see? This part is packed with flavor, with the fat of the meat. You want to deglaze that. We add a bit of water as well. This particle is called deglazing. We have now the garlic and the rosemary, and we add back the meat. At which point we raise the flame again, okay. Maximum at the highest, and we add the red wine. Oh, the red wine must be good red wine, because as my grandmother used to say, if you put a bad ingredient into your recipe, it's not that by cooking it's going to become better. So red wine must be red wine that you may want to drink yourself. And then you add water. Now, if you have broth, that's even better, okay? But I didn't have broth, so water is fine. And we wait for it to reach a boiling. It's going to take a bit because the red wine and the water were room temperature. Once it reaches a boiling, you put it to the lower possible flame and let it simmer for 5, 6, 8 hours. And that's it. There is no need to cover the meat with water, just, half the mark, more or less. Okay, it's coming slowly to a boiling. As soon as it boils, we cover it up and lower the flame. The beauty of a recipe like this is that you can really leave the thing be for hours and hours and hours without much worries. Every now and then you go check that it's going okay, but that's it. It's a fantastic way of cooking meat. And you can do this also with a big chunk of mutton, with a good fatty chunk of lamb, or even with certain parts of pork. Done, it's boiling. Boiling for real. So now we cover up completely, lower the flame to the minimum, and let it go 4, 5, 6, 8 hours, and that's it. See you later. It's 7 p.m. I put the meat to cook at 10 a.m., so it has been cooked for 7 hours. I took it out of the sauce now, and after taking the meat out of the sauce, I blended the sauce with a full immersion mixer, and I set it to a high flame because I want the excessive liquid to reduce, and then with this resulting sauce, we're gonna season the meat. Carefully lift the meat out of the sauce. You have to be careful because the meat is extremely fragile now and it will break with nothing, okay? So, given the fact that you want to serve it as it is in its entirety, you must be careful when you lift it up. Once you've done that, if there is excessive fat, like here, you see this more translucent part, this is fat. You can skim it with a spoon and discard it.